Are you ready for some football? Oh, yeah, we've got it. It starts tonight. NBC, YouTube. It's the Cowboys. It's the defending Super Bowl champ Philadelphia Eagles. You got a divisional rival right off the bat. How about that? It'll be Tirico on the call with the NBC crew. Going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of which, TV and football, the numbers are in on the very first college football weekend, and the Texas-Ohio State game made history. I just got this in from Joe Dank. The numbers just released. 16.6 million people watched the Longhorns and Ohio State at the Buckeye Stadium. That 16.6 million would be the highest ranked opening weekend game in the history of the sport. That's amazing. 16.6 mil watched Texas and Ohio State. Little anticlimactic second week. You do have Oklahoma, Michigan, and, of course, Ole Miss at Kentucky. Don't use the word revenge game because Lane Kiffin doesn't want you to. But there's not many great matchups like there were last week. That's okay. It's still going to be a fun week. That is for sure. It'll be a busy day with us. We'll talk about those numbers and that game and everything else. Bill Bender will join us second segment. Jarvis Greer is going to end it. Next segment, we re-up with our good friend Pete Pranica. We'll talk NBA, and we'll talk, did you see this new NBA All-Star Game format, Landon Schmidt?
I did not catch the new format.
So here's what it looks like it's going to be. I don't know what to do with this game, really. I mean, all All-Star games are having problems. Baseball's is still the best, but even those guys don't. Really, once you had interleague play, it wasn't the same because, it used to be the National League would face the American League only one time in the World Series, and then in the one game, or many years it was two games, in the All-Star games. And they really meant something. They played hard. They didn't think about resting guys because it was league versus league. Well, that's long gone. So even baseball's isn't great. But football, they stopped it because of injuries. And basketball, they don't, and hockey the same way. They don't play any defense. It's really not a game. Just an exhibition. So why not do this? They're going to have three teams, three 8-man teams play, and two of them will be United States players. One will be the world. And it is interesting. This is the one thing I learned today just from this, and I've been wondering because it gets bigger and bigger as time has gone on. But the NBA is only made up now of 70% American players. 30% are foreign. When I first started watching the NBA, this is well before your birth, Landon, there were no foreign players. I'm trying to think of who the first one might have been. Tony Kukoc, who wore a Chicago Bulls uniform. I can't quite remember. Could have been a Sabonis, but I think he came after
I was thinking
Kukoc.
Arvydas.
I think it was either Arvydas Sabonis or Tony Kukoc, one of those two guys. And now 30% of the league is made up of foreign players, and that's only going to get bigger. I don't know how much bigger it'll get. It'll at least get to a third. I know that. But I like this concept. Without knowing all the rules and everything else, what is your first take on that?
It sounds like what hockey did this year of the nations game, where we had America, I believe it was Canada, and a couple teams from Europe, I believe, too. So, I mean, that got great ratings and great reviews. So if they're following that format, I'm all for it.
I'm really not totally sure of the format, but Pete Pranica may know. He's going to join us to start our guest segments on the Sissy Lugs Cabin listener line in just a little bit. The Tigers athletic director met with Memphis's Board of Trustees, which, remember, a few years ago you didn't even have your own Board of Trustees, but they do now, and the AD went to answer some questions and give them the state of the athletic department as we enter the heart and soul of the 2025 athletic season, 25-26, I should say. And it was interesting, the terms he used that he said to this board that they are punching above their weight class. They're in good shape, basically, is what he meant by all of that. And he gave some details. The Tigers are revenue sharing with 200 student athletes. There are 43 more deals through the NIL. Don't forget, the NIL now, if you do an NIL deal, if it's over $600, it has to be cleared by this clearinghouse that the NCAA has put out. And nationally, this just released too. We might talk about this with Bill Bender. $80 million have already been approved. I didn't know how they would get all this in as quickly as they have, but this grouping of clearing this thing, they've already done 80 million deals, $80 million in deals. 28,342 students have cleared the $600 or more. The highest one was 1.8 million. If you divide 28,342 by the 80 million, you're going to end up with, the average is just under $3,000 in an NIL deal. But the highest one was 1.8 million. So the Tigers have 43 more of those, but the sharing of the revenue, we don't know what that is. It was originally going to be around 10 million of the 20.5 million cap that the NCAA has put out there for the revenue share. That by the way, will go up with time. But with this new FedEx deal, that may have gone up, but Dr. Scott said he was not releasing that information. I guess he felt it was a competitive benefit not to. But 200 students. So it's definitely not just football and basketball. That is a mix of all sports. And he's made it clear that women's sports are going to be a part of it. I just wonder, at some point, doesn't Title IX have to come into play when you're talking about that revenue share? That will be interesting to really watch and see how all of this is going to break out. Ticket sales, football at 88% of their goal. They have 10,000 season tickets. I'm not sure they have ever had more than 20,000, maybe 22,000 during the D'Angelo years, but 10,000. That is slightly disappointing to me, but it's only 12% shy of really what they were hoping for. So apparently that's where we sit at the moment, especially with the stadium that's being rebuilt. Basketball is only 4,229 tickets. That's 412 than last year. That surprising to me as well, but not an alarming figure, according to Dr. Scott, who said this is pretty good shape. And it's not going to add to any revenue streams because tonight it's free, but they do have a big game. I'm going to try to get over there. I'm going to bring a lawn chair because the stadium is being rebuilt. But today, I think it's the highest-rated game ever in Memphis, at least in a regular season game where you have the number 2 team in the nation coming in, 5-0 Tennessee, against the number 14 team in the nation, the Tigers, also at 5-0. Last year in Knoxville, they played to a 1-0 ball game, and it was Tennessee that won, so it was a competitive game. Should be a lot of fun. Weather's going to be perfect. Hope that I see you out on South Campus tonight. In the meantime, let's head cross town just a little bit. Our friend Pete Pranica, well rested after his trip and a week off last week, getting set. I got to start with this, though. We all know you may be the biggest Notre Dame fan of anybody. It is your alum. I really thought the Irish were going to take care of business last week. Disappointing for me, but certainly not as devastating as I'm certain it is for you, Pete.
Good morning. Yeah, it was not ideal, but Miami's a really good football team. So, you go on the road with a brand new quarterback who's making his first collegiate start, C.J. Carr. They rallied and got the game tied. Unfortunately, left a little too much time on the clock and defensively couldn't get a stop against Miami. It does put Notre Dame in a situation now, Wolo, where pretty much you got to run the table. If they drop Saturday's game or the game on the 13th against A&M, the season
that's the game right there.
Pretty much over. So, disappointing, but again, a lot of some teams in the top 10 lost because they got beat by other top 10 teams. It was a fantastic weekend of college football
Oh, yeah.
all the way around. Obviously, the result of the Notre Dame game was not what I wanted, but there was compelling viewing all weekend long.
I don't know that I've ever asked you this, but would you like it would be much easier for Notre Dame if they were in a league, and the basketball league they're in is the ACC. As a proud alum, and let's face it, you do have preferential treatment being Notre Dame and your own contract with NBC and everything else that goes with the history and legacy. But would you think in this day and age it would behoove the Irish to be in a league?
I'm not convinced of that. One of the things that Notre Dame is a national university. They recruit nationally. And they were in a cycle where every year they would be in California on the road, either playing Stanford or USC on Thanksgiving weekend. They try to get to the East Coast as much as possible. And, when I was a student and then I worked at the university for about 7 years, it was great that you were able to travel the country and Notre Dame could get into all these different places. And you had these different rivalries. There was a good series with Pittsburgh. There was a good series with Michigan State,
Right.
With the service academies, with Air Force. So I think Notre Dame and Pete DeBacqua, their athletic director, they're committed to retaining their independence.
I do think it's interesting that they play Indiana or Purdue, right? They kind of do one, maybe Michigan's in that mix too. They play either USC or UCLA. Isn't that kind of the way they work it this year? It's going to be USC.
Well, they play USC every year. It's just flip flopping the road, and if it's not USC in Los Angeles, it had been Stanford in Palo Alto. But,
well, they're playing them both this year.
Yeah, they do, and one's at home, one's on the road. They don't make two trips to California generally.
And then they play Navy or Army usually. They play one or the other. Right. Yeah. And that sets up for them, but yeah, they got to beat A&M because then after that they do have Boise, but Boise no longer is as good a connector to the playoffs as they might have been. They got Arkansas. That'll be interesting. Arkansas, they play Arkansas. I think it's the week after they play Memphis. Arkansas, they play at Ole Miss, at Memphis, and then they play Notre Dame at home. They've taken on a bunch. Arkansas certainly has. All right, let's move to the NBA. I am curious. I think, is it official today, all these deals that were done before in free agency, they become official today? And I don't think we've ever talked about the new Jaren Jackson deal, which basically he's going to make $46 million this year. $217 million is the total extension. So he could have gotten $219 elsewhere. He wanted to be in Memphis. That's a big plus for the Grizzlies and the fans and everybody else. What do you want to see out of him now that he is signed, sealed, and delivered for a number of years with Ja? What's the most important thing you think that the Grizz get out of Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Most important thing is a guy that can lead him to a conference finals or an NBA finals. Team success is ultimately the biggest thing. Jaren, you'd like for him to be a perennial all-star, all-NBA, just missed out on all-NBA this year, this past year, because the whole team and everything just kind of went sideways in the second half of the season. His leadership has grown. His voice in the locker room has grown. And I think the upward trajectory just needs to continue. People will always talk about his rebounding or less than rebounding, what you typically expect from a power forward, but he's a power forward with guard skills, and I think his role as a leader has to increase. I don't want to say improve. I just think it has to increase. His voice has to be louder in the locker room right now because Desmond Bane, over the past few years, Wolo, I think, had become more of a leader in the locker room, and his voice may have been the loudest and or carried the most weight. That now falls to Jaren Jackson Jr., in my opinion.
I'm curious when you say that. Shouldn't look, Michael Jordan was the guy that spoke for the Chicago Bulls when he was their star. Larry Bird was the star and spoke for the team when he was with the Boston Celtics. Magic Johnson, the same thing with the Lakers. Shouldn't Ja be the guy?
You got two max players. and obviously Ja is a superstar. Different people lead in different ways. Maybe Ja's leadership is more by example, and Jaren's is more vocal. They have to be co-leaders, no doubt. But because you had asked me specifically about Jaren, I think his voice, his personality is such. I think his personality leads him to be a vocal leader. Ja may be a little less vocal, but more in the example that he sets with his work ethic. So I think one leads more verbally, one leads more by example.
Well, he's got leadership in his genes, doesn't he? I mean, his DNA, his mother, wasn't she the head of one of the players' associations? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, the WNBA Players Association, and obviously his dad, championship experience. He knows what it's all about. So I think that sets Jaren up to, okay, this is now time to take the next step forward, not only in your on-court play, but in your leadership. And that will be even more important with a first-time NBA head coach in Tomas Isilo. I think Tomas will have to rely on both of those max players, Ja and Jaren.
I was going to ask you this, so I'm glad you brought up Isolo. He's now had a whole off-season to plan, and he knows pretty much, or he has for the last couple of months now, who his personnel will be. What can we expect? What is the style? What is the philosophy of Tomas Isolo?
His style is the defense will always make a mistake. We have to find the mistake. He made his reputation in Europe as being a master pick-and-roll coach. That's something that we'll see more of. We did not see as much of that last year under Taylor Jenkins until later on in the season. When Zach Edey comes back, I think the Ja-Edey pick-and-roll is going to be hugely important for this basketball team. But what Tomas will want is he will want his players to work with high basketball IQ, to look for where the defense is screwing up, and to attack that vulnerability. That has always been Tomas's philosophy in Europe, and he has spoken of it many times here in Memphis. The defense is going to make a mistake. You need to find their mistake and punish them for it. And that's his overarching philosophy. In terms of X's and O's, as I said, I think we'll see a lot of pick and roll and a lot of motion.
Interesting. And you know, Zach Edey was the beneficiary later in the year until, you know, he just was injured. But you could see, you know, because I in college he played a lot of pick and roll, so that is something he's comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think last year the coaching staff, you had a lot of people with a lot of ideas that didn't necessarily mesh, and Taylor Jenkins was in the uncomfortable position of trying to blend different philosophies and come up with something coherent that the team could go on the court with. Now, and one of the things in talking with players in Summer League and talking with other people around the organization, everybody is saying that Tomas has communicated clearly a vision for how he wants this team to play. The subtext of that is maybe last year the vision wasn't as clear as it needed to be.
You know, it's interesting. You bring up Taylor Jenkins. I know he got interviewed by the Knicks. That didn't go his way. But what is he doing? Is he still in Memphis?
Last I heard, yes. I know that I had wanted to see if he was going to join Make-A-Wish because they had an event. He was at another charity event. So I don't know. I haven't seen him around, but last I heard that he hadn't left Memphis. But I don't know that for a fact.
All right, last thing. The NBA has announced a potential different format for the NBA All-Star Game, which they need to change because it has not worked the last few years. This one would involve 3 8-man teams. 2 of them would be United States players. The third one, because now 30% of the league is foreign, the third one would be a world team. You like it or dislike it?
I think it's worth it. It's worth a shot. Look, Wolo, name an All-Star game for me that's really good. There isn't one.
No,
the
baseball
Pro Bowl,
used to be, but hasn't been since interleague play started.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there hasn't been an All-Star game that's really been worth anybody's while, frankly. I mean, and the NBA, I would try to watch it, but it's like this is rat ball. You know, we're just playing street ball out here, and you got to see high-level players, but not really playing high-level basketball. So, hey, it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot because, like I said, All-Star games may overall, across all sports, they may have outlived their usefulness.
I'm with you. The NFL. If the NFL can't make an All-Star game work, and they went to flag football, it's obvious nobody can. I'm with you. I think baseball's the only one that can kind of do it because there's not an injury issue like there is with all the other sports. Pete, as always, I appreciate it. We'll be a week closer to training camp when we talk next Thursday. Thank you, buddy.
Sounds good.
That is Pete Predica, the TV voice of the Grizzlies. We take a quick break. We're headed to Columbus. What a game last week for Ohio State. And the writer of college football for the Sporting News is Bill Bender, and he joins us in just a minute.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Everything today is technologically based. Well, except maybe you. If you're struggling with tech, no matter what kind, call Tech for You. Tech for You for TVs, home theaters, cameras, smart locks, digital storage, and more. Tech for You makes it simple and affordable. Call 697-9695. Make your home safe, comfortable, and up to date with Tech for You. Stop struggling with tech. Call 697-9695. Veteran-owned and operated Tech for You. Technology simplified.
If you love sports and Mexican food, you can get the best of both at Los Cabos Mexican Bar and Grill on Summer near Graham. Watch all the big games on all the big TVs on all the walls at Los Cabos and enjoy premium tequila shots anytime for just $5.50. Celebrate every day with lunch specials from 10 to 3 and happy hour from 3 to 8. Lunch is just $6.75 to $10.99 and margaritas start at $3.99. Experience real Mexican cuisine along with great sports at Los Cabos on Summer near Graham.
I'm Gary York. I'm the service director at Lexus of Memphis. Our service department wants to be more than just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Visit Frontier Western Store today for new shirts and boots. Frontier is your top Carhartt store in the Mid-South. There's thousands of in-stock shirts and jeans. They have the classic K87 pocket tee in every color they make, including new ones just released. Available small to 4X. Want new jeans? Frontier has you covered with super tough work denim by Carhartt. And you've got to check out their selection of Ariat jeans for men, women, and children. You'll love how easy it is to find the size and style you need. Have you seen Frontier's remodeled world-famous boot showroom? It continues to expand. New styles by Ariat just arrived, plus plenty of in-stock proven classics too. Whether you need work or dress boots, trust that Frontier's the place to come. See thousands of pairs of Ariat boots and thousands more by Dan Post, Corral, Durango, Rocky, Twisted X, and others. And Frontier's pricing is lower than online and chain stores, so you know just the local shop to visit. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
And to Columbus, Ohio. That's where Bill Bender from the Sporting News lives. That's where the big game was last week. By the way, ratings are in. A week one record ever. 16.6 million watched the Longhorns and the Buckeyes last Saturday. That's pretty amazing. What was that like in the Horseshoe last week, Bill Bender? Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, I mean, unreal atmosphere. Celebrities, Matthew McConaughey, Glenn Powell, legendary coaches like Mac Brown and Jim Tressel before the game. That was as loud a noon game as I've ever seen at Ohio Stadium, and lived up to the expectations that we thought it might. Some people would say the game wasn't great. I would say I love a good 14-7 game because it showed both defenses are just nasty. I know Arch struggled, and we all talked about that all week, but that was a product of a really good Ohio State defense.
I tend to agree. That's your very first road game. You got to play in a game like that in a 1-3 matchup. I mean, that's asking an awful lot. Before I get into your article, because you wrote one on Arch, sort of comparing, I guess, him and his uncles, I did want to ask you about Lee Corso. That was part of the reason that you had the $16.6 million. They had a lead-in of $3.7 million. I think for the headgear, it was 5 million people watched Lee Corso's final headgear deal. What was that like? Did you get a chance at all to chat with Lee Corso?
No, I mean, he was obviously at the show, but when he made that headgear pick, the entire press box was quiet. You've been in those press boxes. There's all kinds of commotion, people doing their own thing, getting ready to cover a game like that. You're in kind of a zone, but we all took that moment, because that's how much he means to the game. And I thought it was perfect and fitting that he went 6-0 with his picks.
Yeah.
He picked Miami, picked Florida State. Those are big stories of the week. Picked LSU. I mean, that's legendary stuff right there by Lee Corso. And irreplaceable is the word that kept getting tossed around, and with good reason, because he is.
He, by the way, picked LSU, I believe, to be the national champions, didn't he?
Well, I mean, they looked like a national championship defense the other night against Clemson. They're fast. Their linebackers are really good. Brian Kelly's got a great team there, and it's been building toward that. And Brian Kelly's had 10-win teams. That was a big win for him. He got the critics off his back, certainly. Brian Kelly takes a lot of criticism, and I thought it was pretty awesome how he got that victory at Clemson.
That defense, and don't forget their quarterback, Nussmeier. They've got all the ingredients to be the national champions. I agree with that, but there's so many teams that could win this year, in my estimation, much more than what we usually see. And, of course, you got 12 that start in a playoff that can win it. So that changes all of the dynamics to begin with. All right, let's get to Arch Manning. I've heard a lot of people pan him. I thought he actually got more relaxed and better as the game went on. I know he was not accurate. I know early he was rattled. Sarkisian himself said he should have had more running plays in there for him to really get the butterflies out. He didn't do that. And he was low and he was high on several of his passes early on. But he's taken on one of the best defenses in the country on the road. To automatically say this dude's a dud is crazy in my mind. You compared him with his uncles. Give me your take on Arch Manning.
Yeah, I mean, people have and Peyton they struggled at times in college. There's a learning curve. I mean, look at now. Granted, in the '90s, different ball games. We weren't throwing it 40 times a game and those kind of things. But Peyton struggled against top 10 teams. His first top 10 game against Alabama threw 2 picks, and he turned around and beat Alabama the next 3 years. Eli actually won his first top 10 game against Florida, but didn't win another one. So, I think that's important to remember. I think some people are comparing Arch Manning to the 2-time Super Bowl winner, Peyton Manning. That was arguably the greatest NFL quarterback of all time, instead of a redshirt sophomore who was making his first start against the Matt Patricia defense that might be better than the defense they had last year that led the nation in scoring defense and won the national title. That's what I'm looking at. And so, yeah, he, like you said, he needs to be more accurate. He'll need to get better, but that'll come over the next 3 weeks against San Jose State, UTEP, Sam Houston. I'm sure Arch will do fine through that stretch.
All right, I'm going to ask you what you learned from these particular games. What did you learn about Florida State in their domination over Alabama?
Well, I mean, that Thomas Castellanos backed up the big talk that they looked like Florida State again. and maybe there's something to that. Mike Norvell took a lot of criticism for being 2-10 last year and on all that. I mean, obviously, that game became less about Florida State, more about Alabama getting beat up front on both sides of the ball. Lack of effort. You've seen all the clips this week. So far removed from what we were used to seeing during the Saban era, and that's what happened. It was bizarre and quite a hole for Kalen DeBoer to try to dig out of.
What's interesting to me is, and I heard somebody say this that I think is right on. Part of the loss of physicality came at the end of the Saban era. Now, that could be NIL money, where a lot of the guys you might have gotten earlier were swayed away by money. But that part of that it began with the Saban, at the end of the Saban era, and DeBoer is trying to reload in that degree. I still think he's a heck of a coach. I also think that this showed out, and I don't know if this is because of the NIL money that Mike Norvell spent in the right way, but speed-wise, my goodness, Florida State looks so much faster than Alabama.
Yeah, and that was one of the things, and obviously Kellen's going to try to put his own stamp on it. He's going to be inevitably compared to Nick Saban every step of the way. And, I mean, the thing that stands out with me is one of the things that made Nick Saban's program the way that it was is they came into your house and took your soul. And, he only lost 6 road games from 2014 to 2023. Alabama's lost 4 of their last 5 road games. It's like Vanderbilt, Oklahoma last year, an unranked Oklahoma team.
Right.
Florida State unranked. I mean, I'm comparing it to where I live, Dave. Ohio State lost 4 or 5 road games. They were unranked opponents. Ryan Day would probably get fired.
No, I don't think there's any doubt about that. All right, what did you learn in the Miami victory, which was impressive, over Notre Dame, albeit at home?
I mean, they got it in the trenches. Their offensive line's very good. Their defensive line's very good. And they've got some players, Ruben Bain, Francis Malgoa. Carson Beck played well. Veteran quarterback. I mean, you think about it, like over the years, think about the quarterbacks Miami's had on national title teams. Ken Dorsey, Bernie Kosar, Gino Torretta. Bernie was good in the NFL. The other guys, not really,
right.
First-round guys. He fits that description. Just kind of a guy that gets it to his playmakers. Malachi Toney had a great game. Their defense played well. And I thought C.J. Carr turned it up a little bit for Notre Dame at the end. And there's always going to be that question about Miami protecting a late lead. But they did win the game, and they made the plays when they needed to. I don't think somebody got out-coached. I just think Miami made the plays when they had to.
Notre Dame's got Texas A&M. That's a must-win for them now. The rest of their schedule plays out pretty well. So let me ask you straight up. Notre Dame, are they going to make the playoffs?
Well, I think they still can, but they need that A&M game, And then you give yourself some room to go 10-2, depending on how everybody else cannibalizes themselves. It was a missed opportunity, but like I said, if they take care of their business at home, that's not going to be an easy game. Texas A&M can run the ball. Texas A&M Marcel Reed had 4 touchdown passes last week. So they'll have their work cut out for them, no doubt. But I think they'll have them in. As a matter of fact, all 3 of those top 10 games in our playoff picture at Sporting News, we didn't take anybody out. I'm not penalizing somebody for penalizing Texas. Why would we penalize Texas? I can't really penalize Notre Dame or Clemson either. Notre Dame, maybe Clemson the most because we're at home. But, I mean, the other 2, those are tough road games.
No doubt. All right, Bill Belichick at UNC, the disaster 48-14 to TCU. What did you learn from that?
Well, that, Belichick, I mean, it's going to take time. You can't just take 70 players, wave a wand, and be a ACC championship contender. I mean, the first 5 minutes, you thought, okay, here we go. But obviously there was a reality check. I think they played the wrong team. That TCU team could win the Big 12 with Josh Hoover. He's an NFL quarterback. And they ran the ball. I think it was the lack of halftime adjustments. So probably the most startling thing is I think Max Johnson is a better quarterback. And I know it was in garbage time, but that's a sixth-year player. If you've got all those new guys, why wouldn't you lean on him? And we'll see how he does. But they play Charlotte this week. I think they'll bounce back and win. That line, by the way, went from 21.5 points to 13.5. So that's a huge. That's a little too much. I think that's almost not enough faith in North Carolina to turn it around here on a short week.
What really shocked me was their lack of physicality, especially their missed tackles. They were awful in that regard. I don't understand how that could be so poor at that level with that coach, but that's what happened. USF over Boise. Everybody's darling in the playoffs was Boise from the group of 6. Now it's USF. Of course, they got to play. They got to play Florida and Miami in the next couple of weeks. That'll be interesting to see. But what did you make over the USF domination of a Boise team that lost their top player last year? And you got a great quarterback in Brown, but that was the defensive line in particular that really impressed me about South Florida.
Yeah, and where can they play the next 2 weeks? Florida and Miami.
Right.
That got us off to a really good start in the American Conference, and that's probably where, at least in my opinion, that's probably where the playoff berth is going to come from, pending the games. Obviously Memphis will have a say in that. South Florida is going to have a say in that. Navy and Tulane with a 20-point victory on the road last weekend.
No, that was at home. That was at home.
I was at home. My bad. Yeah. I'm sorry. They were at home, but still 23-3, right? Impressive win for them, and that makes sense because of the back and forth about the white jerseys in Katrina. Still, you've got a loaded conference at the top, and I was stunned that Army lost to Tarleton State. That was the only shocker out of that conference.
That was crazy, but they lost key players who left after their sophomore year, and that was, I didn't really totally get how impactful that could be with NIL money, but if you are at a service academy, you have 2 years to go there before you are committed to the last 2 years and then a 5-year commission. And so after the second year, you can leave. And several of those Army players that were really good, a running back, I think, went to Arizona State. Those guys had their chance to leave for big money, and they left. And that may be a new thing with the service academies. I don't know how that will play out. Speaking of which, NIL deals, $80 million approved, 28,342 students. That's NIL. I thought NIL was going to be kind of phased down, and we were going to just share $20.5 million with some because it was anything over 600 had to be cleared. I was surprised they got all those deals done. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, that's where the sport is. I mean, I think this weekend we're going to talk an awful lot about Michigan's quarterback, Bryce Underwood, and the NIL deal that he made, and he looked the part. I mean, there's going to be ups and downs with him. There always are at freshmen, but he looks like the real deal long term. I'll say that.
Since you're yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying they played New Mexico, but I mean, you go down to Oklahoma, and if he plays well, I like him. 5-star quarterback. I think he's got a live arm, a lot of talent, and Michigan's in good hands with him.
I'm with you. I know a lot of people think Oklahoma's just going to run away with that game, and they're favorites in the game. But this is Michigan. I think they look – well, it's hard to tell from who they played last week, let's be honest. But I'm almost surprised Michigan is getting all those points in Norman.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. John Mateer played really well, and he's a really exciting quarterback for the Sooners. Washington State transfer, getting compared to Baker Mayfield a little bit, and that's high praise, obviously. Michigan won't have Jayshawn Barham, their linebacker. He got called for a horrible targeting call, by the way. They need to refine that rule. They need to make it a yellow card, red card thing like soccer.
Right.
But he'll miss the first half, so how will Michigan adjust without him? And then, just the road environment. Somebody in our podcast today, my editor Bill Troshi pointed out to me, this is the first time that Michigan has ever played on the road at an SEC school. So that's exciting.
That is That's amazing. All right, last thing. Ole Miss at Kentucky. Some call it a revenge game. We know that Lane likes to run up scores, so the points really, if you think Ole Miss is going to win, they could win by a lot here. How do you view that game?
Well, they see what they learned from last year, and that's one of those tricky lines to me because several of these games since Lane got there have been close. That tells me that Mark Stoops just has a feel for the scheme, does some things that you see that from conference to conference. A certain team just gives you more trouble than others. Now, if Ole Miss can go up there with Austin Simmons, not turn the ball over, do what they did last week, they had 600 yards of offense last week.
Yes.
So Lane's got them in that gear. But remember that game last year against Kentucky? I told the story earlier that halftime, Lane was so flustered by the refs in his sideline interview, and I told my son, I was like, "I'm in trouble, man. He's worried. He's not where his feet are. He's worried about something else, and they're going to be in a little trouble." But if they stay within themselves, Austin Simmons doesn't turn the ball over, it's hard for me to see them losing.
Anybody who plays quarterback under Lane Kiffin seems to end up being pretty good. That's all I can say. Bill Bender, as always, we appreciate your time. We'll talk again next Thursday.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me on, Dave. Talk to you then.
Thank you. That's Bill Bender from the Sporting News. He's brought to you by Ken Garland Custom Home Builders. We're talking third generation now. Ken Sr. started it. Ken Jr.'s been running it. But now there's William in the business. 3 great minds. They all have learned over 80 years now how you build or how you renovate a home and make it just perfect. A dream home. That's what their goal is, to make it a dream for you. And they really do, because the work is never done. If you listen to Ken in his own spot when he talks about it, they work with you well after the building is completed, whether that's a renovation with innovation, you get all the new modern amenities in your old home, or whether you're building from scratch that dream home. They don't make it a nightmare. They say never build a home when you first get married. It definitely is a divorce starter. Never do. Not with these guys, because they're like family. They're with you all the way. When the job is done 6 months later, something comes up, they're right there. That's why they've been in business for 80 years. Whether you're looking for land or you're not sure how to utilize land, whether you want that renovation with innovation, I'm giving you the name. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. We pause for a second. We're headed downtown. The Hall of Famer, Jarvis Greer, is standing by. We'll talk Tiger football and a whole lot more. That comes your way in just a moment.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Marshall Steakhouse is a feast for the eyes as well as the body. Enjoy all American USDA prime steaks, aged 30 days or more, and other delicious meats and sides. Marshall Steakhouse in Holly Springs, named the #1 steakhouse in Mississippi by the Food Network, and named in the top 2 most legendary steakhouses in the South by Southern Living Magazine. Make reservations today and get free bread pudding by calling 662-252-2424 or online at marshallsteakhouse.com. Marshall Steakhouse in Holly Springs, a Southern treat.
I'm thinking back to school.
You mean the Rodney Dangerfield movie?
No, I'm trying to think of a theme for this month's Central Barbecue ad, and since it's September, I'm thinking back to school.
Well, it seems like you're kind of forcing it. What does going back to school have to do with Central Barbecue?
Well, get your school year started right by having Memphis' best barbecue.
I'm not hearing it.
Come on, it's a brand new year. Why not celebrate by getting the tastiest ribs in town at Central Barbecue?
It just sounds like a Central Barbecue ad, but with school shoehorned in.
Every student should enjoy some slow-smoked deliciousness.
Well, now that just sounds stupid.
You try writing a new Central Barbecue ad every month.
Just say Central Barbecue is good.
For school.
If wedding bells are in your future, you need an unforgettable engagement ring from a jeweler you can trust. And that's been James Gaddis Jewelers for over 60 years. With a huge selection and the best prices, James Gaddis is a master jeweler and diamondologist. Beautiful jewelry from James Gaddis is always the right choice. Choose from rings to earrings, necklaces to bracelets, and gemstones to watches. Layaway and financing available. James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar, online at gaddisjewelers.com and Instagram at Gaddis Jewelers. Say I do at James Gaddis Jewelers.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm inviting you over for dinner. Treat yourself tonight with a delightful dinner of scrumptious combinations. Fresh salads, homemade soups, or maybe start with an appetizer, like our baked Dungeness crab dip with manchego cheese, lemon, garlic, and French baguette toast. Drift into one of our fresh seafood dishes, like the caramelized sea scallops with curry beurre blanc, black forbidden rice, and Thai mango salad, or our ancho honey glazed salmon with creamy black bean puree, avocado pico de gallo, and jalapeno crema. Maybe you're looking for something cozy and comforting, like our Duroc pork chop with apple brandy demi-glaze and blue cheese bacon mashed potatoes. We have something for everyone. Napa Cafe, open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. For reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us. I'd sure love to see you.
Congratulations to Napa Cafe, celebrating 27 years of great food and service for you. Napa Cafe.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Let's head over to Mud Island. Jarvis Greer is standing by, ready for week number 2. What did you learn week 1? Tigers and Chattanooga. Jarvis Greer, good morning.
Well, one thing I learned after hearing everybody that poor mouth, who was that, North Carolina, for having 70 new players.
Yeah.
Tigers have 70 new players, and they look pretty good. Of course, it's a different level of competition totally between those two, but I thought that everybody meshed well. I thought that it was crisp. It was pretty disciplined, other than the one pick. And apparently that was a player got loose for the other team and caught Brendan Lewis when he was throwing the ball, so he couldn't get anything on it. Had a guy wide open, couldn't get it on the football. That's one thing you eat. But, trying to make a play. You learn from that. I thought the defense played well early, kind of let up late. They did rotate in a lot of guys. They got 10 defensive linemen that they like, and I think they all got in the game. And I thought the DBs played pretty well. I thought the offensive line looked good, and a big sigh of relief for me is that it looks like Greg DeWosier is okay. We saw him after the game. He was in that he was in a walking boot and on crutches, and that's never a good sign. But he looked upbeat. Sutton Smith said, "Oh, he'll be all right. He'll be all right."
Well, and now
apparently he will be.
And now Ryan Silverfield says it's day to day. He said on the postgame show, don't forget.
Yeah.
He said that was a precautionary move we made.
Right.
And now he said he could even play in this game on Saturday. Well, we'll find out a little bit more here in an hour. But
I'd put him in bubble wrap for this game and the next game. I don't want him for Arkansas.
You wait out the deal till Arkansas. I don't know. I think you still got to be battle tested. Remember, he missed time last year as well. But no, I'm happy to have him back. I'll tell you who you could see this week too is the speedster from Purdue that actually started at Georgia that was really good in the spring game, and that's C.J. Smith. I believe he's going to be on the 2 deep for this week.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And C.J. Smith wears number 1. He's got great height, got a good build, strong, and he's fast as all get out. What was he? He was that freak athlete award winner or something like that. He runs like a 10-200.
I think he's got Austin speed.
Yes, he has speed. And that's one thing, that's what the Tigers sorely missed last year. They only had Demir Blankensee to take a top off the defense, and they need that speed. Looks like several of the guys have it. And to get him in the mix, I think will be great. And you put him on one side and Cortez Braham on the other, and I think you got a pass-catching duo that'll definitely put fear in the defense.
Do you think Calvin Austin is the fastest Tiger receiver you've ever seen?
Yes. Gerald Tinker. This goes way back before you, Dave. This is in like 1969, 1970. Gerald Tinker was a part of the University of Memphis NCAA champion 400-meter relay team. And, as each guy runs 100 yards. And he was faster than fast. The problem is he was more track athlete than football player. So I think he even made the league. He made somebody's practice squad for a while. But Gerald Tinker would probably give Calvin Austin a run for his money, but Calvin Austin was fast as lightning. He was on scholarship for track.
Right.
And he came on, and he was on, I think, a Tiger record holding relay team. And then he came out for football, and they said, yeah, come on, we'll give you a shot. And now look at him. He's starting wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No question. I think he's the fastest receiver returner that I've seen in a Memphis uniform. Now, they say C.J. Smith has that kind of speed, but we haven't seen it yet except for the spring game. We'll see. hopefully at some point this year, maybe even on Saturday. Brandon Lewis's debut was pretty darn balanced. He had 199 yards passing the ball. He had over 200 yards running the ball. He himself had 81 yards. That's the thing that most impressed me, seriously, was when I interviewed him after the game, how big he is. I did not realize a guy that fast is that big.
Yeah, well, he is totally in proportion. He's not a guy that has a real long arms or real long legs or something like that, or a short torso or something. No, he is totally in proportion, so he doesn't look as big as he is until you get up next to him. He's a solid 212, 215, and 6'2", and so he's got the size. He definitely has the legs, because we thought that, there'd be a lot of running involved with him at quarterback. But what surprised me, seeing him now against some live competition, albeit FCS or 1AA, he's got pretty good touch on the ball. All of his passes were pretty much on target, except the one he got hit on for the pick, and he got hit on that. So, that's a mental decision. Just don't throw the football. Either eat it or run it. Don't try to make a play. And, those things are coachable. But I thought, if you need a game manager, I think he could definitely be it, because his decisions were really, really good on when to hand off, when to keep. Coach said that, he could probably clean up some areas in that, but coaches are always looking for perfection. But all the balls he threw, and, that score could have been bigger. There was a drop touchdown pass that was wide open. And, you can't drop balls, especially when you're wide open last night. But his numbers would even be better than and he had another drop a little later in the game, too, that could have been caught. So instead of 22 for 28, that could have been 25 for 28 with another score.
Oh, yeah, there were at least 3 drops. And the defense impressed me because, look, they give up 10 points, but here's the deal. They had 10 tackles for loss. They had a couple of sacks. They had 2 interceptions in the game. They dominated at the line of scrimmage. I thought I didn't even know Chris Bracey until this game. Here's a guy who is sort of a defensive back or linebacker kind of combination of the two, and he had 10 tackles.
Yeah, and I think he was one of the ones that Coach Silverfield said, hey, out of all our defensive backs, keep an eye on Chris Bracey. We really like what he does, and he has good command of where he is on the field, and he's a hitter, noted by the 10 tackles that he had. And I think he was one of the ones. Remember, Georgia State did have one fumble. I don't know why they didn't credit it as a fumble. The ball went out of bounds. He was the one that came over and made the big hit to knock the ball loose.
Yeah, no, he got credited for a forced fumble.
Oh, he did? Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, well, then good. So he's the one that came over and made that big hit. So he ain't afraid to hit, and that's you want your defensive guys to not be afraid to hit. They covered well. We won't really know about this team until we get a few more games into the season, but it's a really good start, I think. And plus they played a clean game. There weren't a lot of mental mistakes as far as offside penalties or holdings or anything like that. And that has been a key to the Silverfield era so far.
Now on the road in Atlanta, Turner Field, which has a lot of history. It'll be Georgia State, which Memphis does not have a whole lot of history. They beat them big time way back a few years ago. This has been rescheduled because of hurricanes, and the Tigers went to Orlando to play a game that got called back, and so
Hurricane Irma.
It's gotten delayed so long, but now they finally play it. This comes a week after the Panthers got absolutely decimated by Ole Miss, 63-7. They may be playing a new quarterback, a guy who's played. This will be his 6th different school. He started at LSU. He's played at Auburn, Western Kentucky, Tulane. I'm missing somebody in there.
One of the other Louisiana schools.
He's huge. West Texas State, maybe?
Texas State, yeah. No, he's a big dude.
Yeah.
6'3", 250, something like that.
6'7", 250.
Oh, 6'7", that's right, yeah. Yeah, he's a monster, and it's like, they said, well, how can a guy just come on and all of a sudden, but no, he's been there and been at their practices. They just got him eligible. And I guess his paperwork finally went through. They finally cleared him so he can play at school number 6, So it's not like he's going to come in just off the street, but still, that's something more for the Tigers to get ready for. And the deal is, yeah, Georgia State got absolutely mollywopped by the Rebels, and Lane Kiffin will do that to you. And that's, credit to them and credit to how they got to score what they did. But remember, last year, they were only 3-9 last year, but one of those wins was against Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt was a pretty good team. So, You never know. You cannot let your guard down against these teams. They have been good in the past. They just kind of struggled a bit last year. And now I'm thinking we're going to see more T.J. Finley than the quarterback they started last week because, he is an either-or. He's listed as the code number one. So to me, that means he's going to start.
He hasn't played in a while, though. That will be interesting to see. I don't know if he'll play first series, but I got a feeling he's going to play. We'll find out in a little bit. 1 minute. That's all you got. Tell me, you've seen a lot of games on South Campus tonight. Soccer.
Woo.
Memphis
Huge.
And number 2 Tennessee, both undefeated.
Yeah, Tigers are 5-0. Tennessee's 5-0. Memphis is ranked 14th. Tennessee is ranked number 2 in the country. Tennessee was unranked to start the season, but started off with a win at defending national champion North Carolina on the road, and then they went to UCLA, a highly ranked team, and won. And I don't think they've been scored on. And Memphis comes in, they've beaten everybody they played, run up the score on a couple of lower-level teams, beat Ole Miss 3-2, beat an 11th-ranked Vanderbilt, beat Missouri. So right now, Memphis leads the SEC. At top of the standing, and Brooks Line, and it's amazing he's only got 2 seniors, so this is the biggest I think ranked versus ranked game on campus for the women.
He's only got 3 upperclassmen. He's got 2 senior. No, I think it's 2 juniors and 1 senior. That's it.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. Oh, and Ashley Henderson is that junior, and she is awesome, and she's a local product from Harding Academy. So it'll be a tremendous battle out there tonight. Bring your lawn chair because the stadium, is. They torn down the old bleachers. They're getting ready for the new Liza Fletcher Stadium and the Liza Fletcher Memorial Stadium, and it's going to be a great atmosphere. And go Tigers, go tonight at 7 o'clock.
I'll see you in just a little bit, my friend. Thank you much.
Okie dokie.
That's Jarvis Greer, our Hall of Famer. Downtown, he's brought to you by the good folks at Family Leisure. A reminder, clear out the warehouse sale. Still going on, all in-stock patio furniture, 60% off. 60%. Can't beat that. You can get a chaise lounge. You buy one, you get the second one half off. All Polywood furniture, 20 to 30% off. You buy a patio table, you get a free umbrella, and there's special financing available. I'd get to I-40 and Wooden Road. Tell them we sent you. You always get benefits when that occurs. They're good folks, and the sale continues at Family Leisure. Tomorrow, usual suspects. Andy Schiffman will join us. We've got Glenn Rogers on high school football. We end our week with Munzie. We'll see you then. Johnny Radio's right around the corner. Have a great